Hey Channel Insiders, welcome back to Channel Insider Partner POV, your source for untapped opportunities and unfiltered opinions in the IT channel, all to help you make better business decisions. And I'm your host, Katie Bavoso. My guest today is Brad Parks, Chief Product and Go-to-Market Officer at Morpheus, an independent software vendor that's taking the complexity out of diverse and disparate clouds for some of the biggest brand names you've definitely heard of. Take the red pill and find out how Morpheus is dispelling the illusion that managing multiple cloud environments can't be done in one place. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's so great to have you here. So I've got to talk about Morpheus because, first of all, the coolest name that I think I've heard in the channel so far. You're redefining the hybrid cloud platform operations experience.
A mouthful. We could dig in and unpack that. It might take a minute.
That's what I was going to turn to you for. Why don't you explain to me in your own words, what is Morpheus, and tell us about the problems that you set out to solve.
Glad you like the name. Yeah, we were founded by a bunch of nerds, right? In the early days, I had to explain red pill, blue pill, the matrix. And actually, in terms of explaining what we do, maybe taking a step back and explaining how we got to where we are is maybe a good way to approach it. So our company was actually started by a team of 25 of the top developers on the planet who lived inside my boss's $4 billion private equity firm. He goes and buys other companies, right? He'll buy non-tech companies, shoe companies, manufacturing companies. But he saw an opportunity to actually inject technology into these companies to make them grow faster than their competitors, right? So he hired this team to go modernize their applications, update them, provision them faster. That team needed tooling to actually get their job done. So they built a set of intellectual property that ultimately became Morpheus. We help development teams, project teams, data analysts inside large organizations get instant access to provisioning the resources that they need to do their job. In terms of kind of who we sell to and kind of how that works from a channel perspective, well, classically, IT, they are that organization that is responsible for answering ticket requests from developers, from database analysts, from other program leads. We help IT be more responsive to delivering those requests by enabling them to provision databases as a service, web services, VMs, containers on demand across heterogeneous cloud environments. So on-prem as well as in the public cloud.
Who are your clients in the verticals that they typically serve? Because in my mind, this could go anywhere. This could go any which way. We all use cloud to some extent in the business world.
We do. I think our bread and butter really is bringing that public cloud environment into the on-premises landscape, right? So we make on-prem technologies like VMware, Nutanix, Red Hat, act just like AWS or Azure or GCP. We also take a lot of the controls that are traditionally associated with on-prem, and we extend those out into the public cloud. So you kind of get all of the best of both worlds. So if we think about industries that have a heavy footprint of on-premises workloads, but are also trying to take advantage of the public cloud, that leads us organically into larger, highly regulated sectors. So you can think about healthcare, financial services, public sector is huge, right, for us. These are all groups where they have a high degree of regulatory compliance, probably means they're not 100% in the public cloud, yet they want that same degree of speed and agility. Also larger environments. We sell into pretty much large enterprise. You need, we say 500 or more kind of applications on virtual machines, but really we start stretching our legs, when people have 1,000 or more. We have customers with, 50,000 application machines under management, all under Morpheus. So think about your global 2,000 type of customers. That's really where having a platform for hybrid cloud and developer self-service becomes a must-have, not a nice-to-have.
You mentioned a few names in there that we're definitely going to dissect as we get further into the interview, but I want to talk about AWS first.
Sure.
And can you talk about how your partnership with them powers Morpheus?
They've been a fantastic partner for us. So Morpheus as a technology platform, we can actually install the Morpheus software wherever customers want it. Could be on-prem in their data center, on a VMware cluster or a KVM cluster. We have a lot of service providers, though, who actually install us up in the public cloud. So we'll actually run inside, an AWS. And then they'll use Morpheus to organize and accelerate provisioning into a variety of on-prem and public workloads. So our relationship with AWS is a little different than a lot of kind of classic software startups where their software 100% lives in AWS. We actually, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But in all of the cases, we're helping IT provision workloads into AWS as well as other clouds at the same time as they're provisioning into on-prem. And particularly special relationship with AWS really accelerated in 2023 over the last year because we had probably half a dozen very large, 7-figure deals where AWS was actually how we transacted with our partners Morpheus opportunities. So we were able to take advantage of private offers inside the AWS marketplace where a customer could use their committed AWS spend to actually massively accelerate their projects. I have a CIO friend on our advisory board who calls his AWS budget the junk drawer for IT because he can not only put AWS cloud instances into it, he can also acquire third-party software like Morpheus and draw down his commitment level to AWS. So it's become a vehicle that we've used very effectively with partners like WWT, Presidio, Advisix, and others, where they are also AWS partners, and we're able to help customers access Morpheus much more quickly by taking advantage of their committed spend with AWS.
You've mentioned VMware a couple of times, and for those who have, I don't know, been living under a rock by this point, Broadcom's acquisition of VMware has really thrown the tech industry through a loop, as we know. So Morpheus, on your website, you're very bullish in helping tech providers, service providers to be able to navigate this space. So can you talk to me about how Morpheus is helping channel service providers and their customers navigate this really massive shift that we're seeing in the industry?
Yeah, for sure. We have a long relationship with VMware, like everybody in tech, let's be honest. We love VMware. We've actually won Best of VMworld 2 times for what we do for hybrid cloud management and orchestration. Probably say 70% of our customers are probably using Morpheus plus VMware in some capacity to turn VMware into a true private cloud and then also reach up and help automate how we're doing things in public clouds like AWS. So that's our typical use case would be combination of on-prem, led by VMware in a lot of cases, and public cloud. To your point on Broadcom, they certainly, they know what they're doing. Hock Tan's made a lot of people a lot of money. He is turning VMware into a cash cow, right? Squeezing out, extra costs, focusing on their top couple thousand customers, but it really has caused customers, partners, and managed service providers just to reorient their relationship with VMware. Mm-hmm. And on the commercial side, we see a lot of customers who are evaluating hypervisor alternatives. Obviously, VMware does a lot of things, but at their heart, they're a hypervisor company. ESX and vSphere are the bread and butter. People aren't going to move off of that platform, overnight, if at all, but they want to have options. And that's where Morpheus comes in for a lot of those enterprises. If you want to use on-prem a combination of VMware, Microsoft, Nutanix, things like Kubernetes, Morpheus is an abstraction. So we let you automate how you provision workloads into all of those options without having to do it a completely unique way. So if you're a big customer, like I said, reevaluating your hypervisor choice, we become very important in that because we let you have choice. Mm-hmm. From a service provider perspective, about 30% of our install base are managed service providers where they're using Morpheus to provide a multi-tenanted front end to managed private clouds for their customers. Same story though. Those service providers may have been using technologies like vSphere or vCloud Director, and that was great, has been great for a long time, but their customers are in turn saying, hey, I don't really want my cost to go up by 2 or 3x because I'm not one of those top 2,000 customers that Broadcom may be initially focused on. What are my options? So our service providers are also saying, how can we provide choice to their downstream customers?
Let's dig into that a little bit more about Morpheus's capabilities, because cloud has been around for a decade, but by this point, it has reached a maturity benchmark, and that means more complexities. When you've got customers coming to you, or you've got partners with customer challenges coming to you, what are those challenges typically by this point? We're at a turning point in the cloud space. So I'd like to know, are there challenges shifting with those complexities? And what are you often hearing when they come to you and say, we need help?
Yeah, IT by nature is complex, and it is only getting more complex over time. And I think as a platform vendor, our job is to take that complexity and do as much as we can to make it simple, to make it easy to consume, and that's really where we're at. Is I joke sometimes with customers I talk to that hybrid cloud is more of an inevitability than it is a conscious strategy for most customers, right? If we think about just public cloud 10 years ago, to your point, there's a certain segment of customers that are going to, if I was starting a new business today, I wouldn't buy a data center or a rack of equipment. I would probably put, my small business workloads 100% in AWS or Azure or GCP. That's just how new customers are starting in that SMB space. But if you're a large Fortune 2000, highly regulated, you have a lot of on-prem that might be across multiple hypervisors. You have a team who's taken advantage of some of the great services that AWS has. You might be doing a merger or an acquisition of another company who was 100% all in with, Microsoft and Azure. That mess is just a reality, and it is not going away. Morpheus, as a abstraction layer, we integrate all of those heterogeneous technologies, and we give IT teams a consistent way to think about provisioning workloads into those clouds, putting governance and guardrails around how their internal users are taking advantage of those technologies. And then the last big pillar is how they're reporting and thinking about how their organization is using those technologies for chargeback, for showback. So that's our goal, is to kind of sit in front of that cacophony and make it easier to consume, govern, and manage.
Let's put a face to a name, so to speak, with an example of that. Can you give me an example in the real world about how Morpheus was able to help solve a challenge like that for a client?
Yeah, I mentioned highly regulated industries. Pharma is one that meets that curve. AstraZeneca is a large, obviously a large pharmaceutical, got even larger and more important during COVID. And they've been with us for a long time. I like using them as an example because we've grown with them over the last 5 or 6 years. They've been with us that long. Back in 2017, right when I joined, I was around when we brought them on. At the time, they were a 100% VMware shop. They were using available technologies, which was VMware vRealize automation or ARIA automation. It's one of the platforms that still exists. We replace it often because it's VMware centric. Like a lot of customers in the story we just talked about, they were looking at using additional hypervisors on-prem, and they wanted to start taking more advantage of the public cloud. One of their core challenges, though, and it's echoed by most large IT shops, when a data analyst, in their case, a researcher doing a genome sequencing project, said, hey, I need a new instance of this database for my research, they would submit a ticket, fill out a bunch of information about how big does that database need to be, what are its dependencies. It would go into the front end of the sausage making machine, and 2 weeks later, they would get back what they asked for. I see that pattern from enterprise CIOs, SVPs of infrastructure, still day in and day out. The people asking IT for things have to wait. if that same data analyst went to AWS, they could hit a button, swipe a credit card, and get it back in 5 minutes. A lot of the problem that we solved for AstraZeneca was shrinking that time window by automating a lot of those handoffs that have to happen on-prem. So they adopted Morpheus, actually got us up and running in a POC in less than a day.
Wow.
Once they kicked the tires and decided this is where they wanted to go all in, we had them fully ramped across 8 data centers in less than 80 days. And today they've got, I think, 15 to 20,000 VMs under management, and they've saved about $6.5 million. So it's a great case study because we let them get freedom of choice for their on-prem hypervisor and shrink the time it took for IT to become a true service delivery function for the business. And now they're also using public clouds like AWS out of that same platform.
Can you talk to me about how you're investing in your channel partners this year?
There are a lot of infrastructure partners who've made great money selling VMware and servers and storage, and that's a robust business. We look for the partners who are evolving or growing from that to develop a true hybrid cloud kind of pillar within their own business, where they're starting to integrate and develop expertise around tools like Ansible, Terraform, AWS, VMware, bringing all those tools together. That's where Morpheus fits inside the enterprise. So from a partner perspective, partners who are working with those same third-party vendors find a lot of value in bringing Morpheus in, because we are the central control point that lets them take vendor relationships they already have as a partner and expertise they're developing and bring it to customers in a more cohesive way. And so we invest in training. We have a lot of online training. We run instructor-led trainings. We have certifications from admin to administrator to engineer. We have hands-on labs we run, hosted. We do NFRs with our partners. So yes, definitely a very robust partner ecosystem. Myself, as well as some of the other exec team, came from other vendors where had very robust partner ecosystems. So we've been in the partner game for a very long time and are really partner first. Once Morpheus is in place, what we find is there's generally an 8x drag of additional hardware and a 4x drag in additional services that surround any Morpheus implementation. So if you think about it, a $100,000 Morpheus license and software sale, that's going to be $1 million all-in opportunity from a partner perspective in terms of other hardware, other tooling, and other services.
What new opportunities can Morpheus help partners and customers unlock in 2024?
Yeah, I think the single biggest sales play and what we think about is that Broadcom conversation, just because customers are afraid, they don't know what to do, and they're actually putting budget and funding behind how do we deal with this. So that'd be the biggest. A couple others, though, that are also popping up, they're really important. One is the edge. Mm-hmm. So if we think about cloud, right, a lot of times, we'll say cloud and we immediately go to an AWS, which is great. It meets the NIST definition of what is a cloud, but cloud is fungible, it's meter-based, it's shared, it's on demand. We bring that same definition to on-prem data centers, but we can also apply that to edge locations. And then AI, I mean, God, what podcast would be complete without somebody AI washing you? So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say we're your AI best friend. But if you think about what Morpheus does, we provision applications, we attach data to those apps, we run jobs. When you're training a learning model, that is actually what you're doing. And so we're partnering with a lot of OEMs like HPE, Dell, Lenovo. These are other vendors, obviously, that the channel works with. And one of the use cases we're actively bringing to market is the ability to provision virtual machines, connect to GPUs, run jobs for things like training learning models. So look for more in that space.
Well, Brad, if I'm a prospective partner or I want to get to know your solutions more, how can I find out more about Morpheus?
Yeah, the easiest place is the website. So it's morpheusdata.com. From there, you can navigate to our partner portal, learn how to sign up to become a partner, ask for more information. We also have links to our community edition of the software. If you've got solution engineers who want to go play with it for free, we can get you there. So start with morpheusdata.com. It's pretty easy to navigate. If all else fails, I don't mind it if you email me directly. I am Brad at morpheusdata.com, and I can help hopefully route you to the right person.
Thanks to Brad for joining me today, and thank you for watching or listening. Check out all episodes of Channel Insider Partner POV on channelinsider.com or watch on YouTube at channelinsider_news and trends. You can also listen to the podcast version of every episode on your preferred podcast listening platform. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to never miss an episode. We put out a new video and podcast every week. If you'd like to be on the show, email me, partnerpov@channelinsider.com. Once again, I'm Katie Bavoso, and I'll see you next time.